Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is a
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. This is the final edition of the week edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com on a 10th of February 2023. Starts bright and blue. Our final non-Friday without a single tournament game for the next 7 weeks. Think about that. That'll blow your mind for what's about to come on the both local and college sports scene. Welcome to our show on this Friday morning before Super Bowl weekend. Eagles and the Chiefs are allegedly playing in a game on Sunday night, which we'll chat about before we say goodbye here today. We've had such a heavy week, a lot of in-depth conversation, a lot of big talk, which has been great. I really appreciate all the feedback I've received, our show has received over the last few days. Heck, even going back the last few months, especially on the three-class basketball topic, which we will certainly continue to discuss. I think now the bigger story to me isn't necessarily on how it's going to work, or not necessarily where we've been. It's now what's going to happen, how this is going to change things, and getting it set up and ready. I mean, we're a little over a year away from getting this done. That's, to me, the appealing story going forward, which we'll hit on. But I think the what now is the more appealing topic on that. We'll break a little bit from that today, though. We're going to lighten things up, and I say lighten in quotation marks. We're not necessarily super heavy here every single day, but in terms of just we're going to have a little bit more fun today. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the show, I have to tell two quick stories. One, as we mentioned, it is the Friday for the Super Bowl. I'm wearing, for those that are going to listen on the podcast later, I will try and describe in as graphic detail as can. A fleece I got when I went to, here's the humble brag, when I went to the Super Bowl 5 years ago now in Minneapolis. And I won't share the cost of it because it's obscene. It's just totally obscene for what, basically it's just a normal fleece and they threw the Super Bowl logo on it, which is probably like $50 that added to it. But two stories out of this. The first one is, why does the Super Bowl logo become so blah? I remember growing up where the logos were really neat. Well, I'll have to throw some graphics together here maybe during our first break of like when that was neat. It was unique to the city of where the game was, and frankly, it made me, and I'm sure tons of people my age, learn Roman numerals because you don't use them ever. So that's honestly how I found out how to count in Roman numerals. And when we got to like into the 40s, right? And then you had XLIX, right? Or XLVIII. I mean, we're getting it was getting crazy. Then the NFL decided to go away from for 1 year for Super Bowl 50. They went to the number, which nobody liked because they didn't want to do Super Bowl with an L because L is the Roman numeral for 50. And then they've cranked it out now. As you can see, the one I have is for 52, which was the one that was played in Minneapolis. And now we're up to 57, which is a little bit easier to read. It's LVII. But we're going to get a couple years LVIX. And then after that, it gets don't even ask me after 60 and beyond because it's going to break my brain. But I long for those because now they're so monochromatic. I mean, it's cool. I've got this. I wear this the Friday before the Super Bowl because A, I spent too much money on it, so I'm going to make sure it gets some sort of use every year. And B, just makes me reminisce about what the logos used to look like in the 80s and the 90s when it was geared toward wherever city you were going to be in. It was a really neat deal. Second, in relation to the Minneapolis Super Bowl, which was one of the coolest things I've had the things to cover. Awesome deal. Was one of the bucket lists on when I was a kid, knowing this is what I wanted to do with my life. If I had a chance to go and cover the Super Bowl, then that would be the key, just the bee's knees, be fantastic. And I got to go. And I had a bunch of my buddies. My family was texting me throughout the day and was, sharing some photos, whatever, of at the stadium, all that kind of good stuff. And this is before my wife and I had our son, and Courtney was at her sister's place to watch the game because obviously I was gone. Normally we do a little Super Bowl get together at our house, and she was really excited because Pink sang the national anthem, and I think actually we got to see Pink about a month later at the Xcel Energy Center, and the game's going on. The game is obviously fantastic, as people remember the Eagles and the Patriots game, and we get to in the third quarter. Late third quarter. I mean, Brady's doing his thing. The game is a tight football game. It's coming down to the wire. And I get a text from Court. I'm like, oh, wow. She's got, she's not a huge football fan, a huge sports fan. So she's texting me. She's like, oh, it's exciting. She's probably watching the games. And yeah, this is exciting. And I get the text, and it's, late in the third quarter. And it says, when do you think the game will be over? Because my favorite show is on afterwards. Because I believe This Is Us was airing on NBC at the time, which was her favorite show. And I just kind of chuckled and said, well, they tend to go kind of long on these things. So I would imagine probably a half hour after the game is done is probably when the show will be on. I just kind of shook my head. I chuckled like, yeah, heck of a game, but priorities over that. So I wanted to share that before we got started here today. Excited about what we're going to see on Sunday. Hopefully we got a good football game. Too often, at least when I was growing up, the game was just a boat race. I mean, the NFC just dominated the AFC. I mean, those games were over at halftime, where it has shifted in recent years. I'd say the last 15 years, more often than not, you've had a competitive Super Bowl game. But that was not the case, I could tell you, from 1987 to, 1998. Those games were blowouts more often than not. Wasn't good. We'll get back into that before our show obviously wraps here this morning. We'll begin, though, with a busy Thursday night on the hardwood, as you saw here last night on WDAY Extra. The Bison men hosting Omaha. NDSU came in losers of 4 of its last 5, facing an Omaha team that really have been struggling, losers of 7 in a row. And this game, you talk about blowouts, NDSU put the hammer down after the second media timeout to make sure this game was not competitive. Grant Nelson didn't really fill the stat sheet in the first half. That hook shot there was almost his second basket of the game. But it was everybody else that was contributing. That's a nifty feed there from Damari Wheeler-Thomas to Andrew Morgan for the lay-in underneath. They kept it going here. Morgan was really good last night. And when he is involved, engaged in the offense, they're a tough team to beat. They just are. Then they started knocking down from long range. Sam Hostreiter with a 3. It was a 21-point lead before the under 8 media timeout. They added on to Javis Miller from the end, and NDSU drills the 3, puts them up 24. Got worse here as Skunberg scores down low. The entire starting 5 for the Bison got into double figures. Then Grant Nelson got going in the second half on a great feed there from Josh Strite. Here, Miller and Nelson on the somewhat alley-oop. It still went in. Then Morgan hits a 3. You knew then the roof was going to come off the place. And the Bison cruise, 84-58 is the final, as they got up by 30 at one point and win convincingly here to get to 7-6 in conference play. Bison had built a 38-point lead at one point in this game. You look at that night from Nelson, which was intriguing, by the way, because there were a pair of NBA scouts in attendance, including former Chicago Bull Dickie Simpkins. Former Providence Friar Dickie Simpkins was sitting there in the front row, which was pretty cool. And a much-needed win on the home floor, which is something that they had eluded the Bison in recent times. They had not played their best ball at the Shack. Miller with 13, Skunberg 12, Damari Wheeler-Thomas had 12, and obviously you see the night that Andrew Morgan had. And the night in the league was, I don't know if standard is the right way to describe it. There wasn't too many shocking upsets outside of Kansas City going on the road and winning in Macomb, something that has not been easy to do. The Bison lost there. South Dakota State lost there. Kansas City did not. The Roos won by 12. As you look at the up-to-date standings down the league, Oral Roberts had to shake off St. Thomas in a game that they were actually trailing with under 6 minutes to go, where the Golden Eagles then ended up pulling away and winning 95-88 to stay unbeaten in league play to get to 13-0 on the season. The Jacks will play USD on Saturday, so they remain at 9-4. Western drops to 8-6. Kansas City's there at 7-6. There are the Bison at 7-6 in the 5 spot. St. Thomas drops to 7-7. South Dakota, as we mentioned, plays the Jacks on Saturday. And then the rest of the league, Denver, who lost to UND. The Fighting Hawks now have won consecutive league games. First time that's happened all season, and moved out of the cellar for the first time. And Omaha at 3-11, as those are the games from yesterday that you're seeing. Can we go back to the standings real quick? I just wanted to see update that one last time before we move on to the women's here. So as things would stand now, the Bison would play Kansas City in Sioux Falls in the opening round of the tournament. Western would get St. Thomas. The Jacks would get the winner of the 7-10 game between South Dakota and Omaha. Denver and UND would play in the 8-9 game, and the winner of that would get Oral Roberts in Sioux Falls. So I don't know if it's ideal for the tournament organizers that 2 of the Dakota schools will be playing on Friday, but that's where we're at right now with a little over 2.5 weeks to go in the season. Meanwhile, on the women's side yesterday, the Bison ladies were in Omaha to take on a Mavericks team that they had beaten earlier this season. Omaha's been playing better as of late. They had won 2 straight heading into the game with the Bison, and they had actually built a 12-point lead at one point, did Omaha in this game. The Bison had to fight their way back. Elena Pilacuda was, again, outstanding for Omaha. You remember she had 28 points the first time the Bison faced the Mavericks in Fargo. They were down 8 here, just nothing falling. You see Elle Evans misses. Heaven Hamling throws that one into the second row. No, it was a sloppy game, another sloppy game for the Bison women on the road. And yet, with 6 minutes to go, they're down 8 as Evans collects and scores and cuts it to a 6-point game with under 6 minutes to go in the ball game. Graham finds a cutting Hamling to drive to the basket and score. Cuts it down to a 2-point game. that cost him here. This is a bad turnover there from Taylor Brown, trying to feed on the cut there, and Omaha would go on and beat the Bison 63-58 is the final. NDSU turns the ball over 11 times. They shoot just 35% from the field. Hamling was 4 of 12 last night, held to 10 points. L. Evans led the way with 16 for Omaha as they get the victory and split the season series. Mavericks win their third in a row. Pilacuda had just 10 points, but 5 of 5 from the field. NDSU contained her, but it was their other studs that went off. Grace Cave had 19 in the win, also had 4 steals and 8 rebounds. She was really good for Omaha last night, and a critical win for the Mavericks. But unlike the men's side, the women's side had a couple of upsets last night, including St. Thomas, which had won 3 games in league play prior to last night, winning on the road in Tulsa and knocking off Oral Roberts. And they did the Bison a solid in the process, because now, as you see the up-to-date standings, remember the Jackrabbits play South Dakota coming up tomorrow, that game in Vermilion. SDSU can win the league tomorrow. If the Jackrabbits win, they'll have clinched the regular season championship with 2 weeks to go in the season. But with the Bison and Oral Roberts both losing, they remain tied for second. Oral Roberts has the tiebreaker since they have the head-to-head win. UND got a nice win. They leapfrog USD, so they move into the 4th spot because they have the head-to-head on South Dakota. So UND actually holds the 4th spot now. South Dakota moves to 5. There's Omaha, by the way, hanging around at 6, and they've won 3 straight. Denver, who the Bison will play on Saturday, and then it's a clear line there with Western, St. Thomas, and Kansas City. It's a bad loss for the Bison women. There's no other way to say that. It's a game they should have had. But now you look at what they have coming up here. Obviously, the game with Oral Roberts looms next Thursday here in Fargo. But then after that, they're playing 8, 9, and 10. You got to win all those games. If we're going to take you seriously, is what Jory Collins was talking about, then you got to win all those games. Because right now, they're 14-9 overall, 8-5 in the league. Again, better, but they have really not played well away from Fargo in conference play. They lost in Grand Forks. They lost in Tulsa. They lost in Brookings. I know they got the win in Vermilion. They got a win in Kansas City. But they're going to have to, they better win on Saturday in Denver. That's a game you better get. And then have games in Macomb and in St. Paul. Kansas City will play here to wrap up the home schedule for the Bison women. But it's not going to get easier. You got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. That was a game they were supposed to win last night, and I'm sure Jory Collins was not thrilled at how last night went. Fun show coming up for you here over our next 2 hours. Logan Campbell will be by at 9:35 in her usual Friday time slot. We'll recap what we saw last night, preview the weekend, what she's excited about for Super Bowl Sunday, all that kind of good stuff at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, I'm really excited about this segment. As people know how much of a Seinfeld nerd I am from just the intro to our show. We've got Fusilli Jerry and the puffy shirt right here on set. A local guy, Mike Crummy, and a bunch of his buddies have developed a literal NCAA tournament-style bracket to determine the best Seinfeld episode out there. Mike's going to join us coming up at 10 o'clock on how this all came about, how you can vote in this, and determine the top Seinfeld episode. That's coming up at 10 o'clock. Speaking of a Seinfeld rube that he is, my dad at 10:35, before he hops on an airplane and heads to Daytona Beach for the Daytona 500 for next weekend. We'll get his lock, stock picks for the Super Bowl and every other prop bet around. I'm sure he's got a few that he's locked into The cruelest joke of them all, he's on an airplane when the Super Bowl is going on. I don't know how he's going to handle that coming up on Sunday night. So we'll do that before we say goodbye. That and a heck of a lot more coming up here on a fun Friday show. We'll take a break. We come back. Tom Hoagie's opening round of the Waste Management. And Shooter McGavin was there. It gets even better. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. All right, welcome back, everybody, here on a Friday morning. Yesterday, obviously, Giving Hearts Day, great day for everybody in the community to give to any charities, nonprofits. We had Jake Hook here on Wednesday, Davies boys basketball assistant coach, and also the founder of Kitson Cares, to give back to kids up in Kitson County, his hometown, his neck of the woods up there in Hallock. Jake texted me last night. He told me, remember, when he was on the show on Tuesday, they were hoping for $20,000. That was their goal, for $20,000. And he messaged me last night and said they did it and then some. A total of $20,702.89 is what they hit yesterday from Giving Hearts Day. So congratulations to them. Absolutely. Jake told me that he said that plenty of people saw him on the show, which is awesome, and congratulations to them and all of the nonprofits and charities around that benefited. I know I donated yesterday to a couple, and anything we can do to give back, that's a great deal. So congratulations and thumbs up from us here at Hot Mike, Jake. That was great stuff. Two things here before we bring Logan on here in a couple minutes. The Waste Management Open got underway yesterday. It was delayed because of frost. I find that hilarious, by the way, that Kolpak was there and it was delayed for a bit. And the other part that was hilarious, and we have to ask him this when we see him again on Monday, as I'm watching the featured coverage of the 16th hole, because why not? And this is the first thing of video I see from 16 is Shooter McGavin himself. Christopher McDonald was there as Tom Hoagie was playing the 16th hole yesterday, which was fantastic. Hoagie's tee shot not so great at 16. I don't know if they booed him as he missed the green. Had a heck of a chip shot here because he was in a tough spot. He ended up making that par putt, and he is 1 over par currently on his round as he has played 10 holes. He's got to go out and finish the rest of his round this morning. I believe they are getting back on the course now. So he'll be back out there to wrap up his first round. Conditions were tough yesterday. The wind was blowing and it was chilly, as you can tell. So those are what he shot yesterday from his opening round down at the Waste Management yesterday in Scottsdale. Featured coverage again at the 16th and 17th. So if you are looking to see him play, you'll at least get a couple of holes of him on ESPN Plus later this morning. The other big news that came down yesterday was of the college football variety, which I always enjoy when we're in the middle of February and we get not a bombshell, because I think this is one we've been expecting for a little bit, but heard it may not happen. That the Stadium Network first reported and confirmed by ESPN that Texas and Oklahoma will leave the Big 12 and are heading for the SEC a year earlier than originally expected. Originally, it was going to be for 2025. They have made the concessions mostly for television, and they will be leaving for the 2024 season. A total of $100 million to leave early and join the SEC. Also came down to flipping a couple of college football games as well between Michigan and Texas. Texas will now visit Michigan in 2024, and Michigan will return the game at Austin in 2027. Why that's important? Because in 24, the game will be on Fox. Fox wanted that to get the trade with the late game then on ESPN. As you know, ESPN has all the rights to the entire SEC starting in 24. So they still get another year of Big Ten football next year in 23, and then it goes exclusively to Fox, NBC, and CBS beginning in 2024. So just a sneak preview here, folks, of what college football is going to look like in the fall of 2024. Okay? Just close your eyes and think of this. College football 2024. You will have USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. You will have Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. And you will have a 12-team college football playoff that year. Yowza. That is all on tap for the 2024 college football season. Sign me up for that. Yep. Tradition be damned. I get it. But when you have you get that first Oklahoma-Alabama conference game, and remember, everybody's doing away with divisions. So that's the next topic up, is how they're going to do this. And that affects FCS football as well, because as we know, SEC has been more than willing to schedule FCS opponents because they play 8 conference games and 4 non-conference games. But likely they're going to go to 9 conference games, much like the Big Ten does, which would mean 1 less game, which would mean bye-bye FCS games. You know, Eastern Washington got a chance to play Florida. There's been many that have signed up and get a chance to play Alabama. Those games will be gone. They are donezo once this, and this is going to happen once this comes in for 2024. So enjoy your last cracks at the SEC here in 2023, FCS teams, because those paydays are gone. And that's a big deal, especially for those teams in the South that rely on those, bank on those. Those games are donezo. Can't say that I'm too surprised on that, but that is the byproduct of this happening. The trickle down is that it hits the FCS teams there. So 2024, Texas, Oklahoma, SEC, UCLA, USC, Big Ten, 12-team playoff. Man, it is going to be crazy on how this is going to all unfold over the next year plus there. We'll take a break. We come back. Logan Campbell will join us. We'll recap what we saw from the Bison game last night, look ahead to the weekend, whether else we'll talk about on a Friday morning. Hot Mic continues after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Don't forget, we've got wrestling tonight here on WDAY Extra. Big one of the Big 12. Anytime Oklahoma, new SEC member in football, they're still going to be in the Big 12 in wrestling. That's tonight, 7 o'clock right here on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. That should be a fun one at the Shack. The last 2 Bison wrestling duels you'll see televised. This one and then a week from Sunday in the finale against South Dakota State. Okay, Logan Campbell's here. I'm going to be old man here just for a second, okay? So I was talking about this off the top of the show, about the Super Bowl logo. Like, you're too young to appreciate how cool the logos used to be. So we can put up, Eric, thanks for finding this. So this is what the logos used to look like year to year, right? They identified it with the city, right?
Yeah.
And for me growing up, this is how I found out what Roman numerals were. Like, you had no idea until you actually saw them in the Super Bowl. No, that wasn't a thing we learned. It was Roman numerals. No.
Maybe it's because I went to Catholic school.
That's exactly why. But look at that. And then there was a sea change, obviously you can see right at the bottom. After Super Bowl 44, then they went to, and the standard logo, which like is the one that I have on my fleece there from Super Bowl 52. It's so blah. Look at those cool ones. Like
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Super Bowl 21 with the Rose, because they played that at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. That's a cool one there.
Those are sweet.
Bring
them back.
Super Bowl 25. That one was in Tampa with the Giants and the Bills. That's a cool one. The one next to that is the first one in Minneapolis, Super Bowl 26.
Did they say why they switched them?
Oh, because it's the NFL. They just do weird stuff there.
Yeah,
So-
no, the retro one's so much cooler.
So last night I got home and I got a tweet sent to me about the XFL rosters have been announced. Did you happen to notice who's on an XFL roster?
Darius Shepard, right?
Yeah, he's one of them, but
Okay.
not who I wanted to ask you about.
Oh.
On the Seattle Sea Dragons
Oh,
quarterback,
is it? I knew it.
your guy for the Seattle Sea
Are we gonna
Dragons.
call him my guy?
Well, yeah,
I mean, he's a Duke.
yeah. He's James
Roll
Madison,
Dukes.
all right.
I
That's
mean,
your
representing
team.
JMU, I guess.
That's your team.
You know, I could see him becoming like this huge like media personality for the XFL. For not right reasons.
You know, I feel bad for the guy because his one NFL start
Oh my gosh.
came on Sunday Night Football, and it was
So it's funny you say that
bad.
because I remember sitting in my living room with my 4 roommates. This was right after I graduated. And we're like, oh my gosh, Ben DiNucci primetime.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be sweet. And then he just went out there and did awful. And we all were like, well,
Yep.
does not show well for JMU at all. The way he threw the ball, too, in that game.
Not good. No,
Yeah.
nothing was good in that game.
And PFT, I don't know if you're into Barstool Sports. He went to JMU. He was all excited about Ben DiNucci, and he was just ripping him apart on
PFT
Twitter.
commenter went to James Madison.
He
I did not
allegedly
know
went
that.
to my high school, too.
Really?
Go Hornets, Herndon High School. Didn't know that either. But yeah, he was on the rugby team at JMU.
Oh wow!
Yep.
All right.
So yeah, that was
So
not.
now you can become. I don't know if you know this. Matt Hopper in the last iteration of the XFL was a huge DC Defenders fan. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's signing back up because they're back. There's
That's
eight.
where the Beer
There's 8
Snake
teams. Where do they play that, by the way?
Audi Field. I'm pretty sure.
So
That's
where the soccer team plays.
Yep, that's where DC
Okay.
United plays. That area is really cool. It's right by Nats Park. It has all the bars, has all these restaurants.
You know
I know
how I
you
feel
don't
about
like
that.
Nats Park, but you went when it wasn't built up yet.
That's true. I did. They still had apparently a
cool
lot of
now.
construction to finish.
When did you go there?
Oh gosh, 2011.
Okay, well that makes a
2012.
lot of sense.
2011.
It's
yeah,
2023.
it is.
So
it is.
yeah, it's
Thanks
a little
for
bit
the
different.
reminder.
It's a little bit different from when you were there.
So there are teams in Arlington, the Renegades, the Houston Roughnecks, the Orlando Guardians, the San Antonio Brahmas, which, by the way, that's what The Rock used to be called, if you know this. He was the Brahma Bull.
I did
And
know
yeah,
that.
was his old nickname, was
I
the
love
Brahma
The Rock.
Bull. So
Are you a fan of XFL?
I think I'll watch. They have the St. Louis Battlehawks, obviously the Defenders, the Sea Dragons, and the Vegas Vipers. Those are the 8 teams. I just there's a point though where it's too much football. Like the NFL wraps up Sunday, then we're going to get the week after that the XFL starts, and then in the middle of that the USFL
Did
is
you
going
say
to go.
too much football?
There's a point where you need to step away for a little bit.
That's a hot take, I feel like.
It is for,
I think
just for
XFL
me.
is
I need to
fun.
step away.
XFL's fun because it's kind of like the frat brother of NFL,
Well,
in my opinion.
I'd be interested in what their ideas they're going to rip off from the XFL. The NFL will do that. They'll say, "Oh, we really like that. We'll take that. This camera angle or the ability to watch the challenge." They did that a couple years ago before COVID hit. They had a camera up with the replay official. They could look what they were challenging. I kind of like that. That was neat.
Well, this is like a revamped version, right?
It is.
I think it's going
So,
to be fun to watch.
We'll see. But at some point, one of these leagues, they either work. Like, is spring football a thing? I know it didn't work in college football. That was not a deal. Who watches this? You know what I mean?
I think
all
people
about
go just to
ratings.
go. I know I had a few friends that went to the Defenders game, and they said that they were more fun than the Washington Commanders game, but that's not hard to
Well,
do.
I was going to say, Commanders football
but
is
like
that
the
any
amount
good?
of times, like you would like see like videos would go viral
Mm-hmm.
from fans at these games. It just seems like such a fun environment. It's probably more fun to go and watch than watch on TV. But I don't know. I think this year could be cool.
We'll
I guess
see.
we'll see.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see, because I'm a nerd on this, on who actually is watching the games on television.
Me. I will be.
You're the only one then.
I will be the only one, I guess. Someone
that.
has to.
What did you make of what you saw from the Bison men last night?
Oh, I thought they looked solid. I think that was, like you said on the broadcast, the most complete we've seen them. First half, lights out, both ends of the floor.
Mhm.
And something I noticed is Bowden's a great player, but he typically plays better on the road. I think he played so well last night, defensively especially. I think that he stood out to me last night. Of course, Grant Nelson, Andrew Morgan. But they just looked and worked like a well-oiled machine. And I think they needed that heading into this weekend and next weekend.
I thought Dave said something interesting to you after the game that said that was a gut punch they got from the Oral Roberts Kansas City weekend and haven't really fully recovered from that. That was 3 weeks ago, and they've lost 4 or 5 heading into last night. And the guy said in the post-game press conference, both Nelson and Morgan said, yeah, I think we got a little bit of our swagger back by how they played last night. That was interesting to me because they had come in. You remember they had won 5 in a row when Oral Roberts was here. And Oral Roberts took it to him, and then they did not play well against Kansas City. They had the one game with UND, which they handled UND in that game, and then lost the both games last weekend that suddenly we were talking about, well, they're on the doorstep of potentially the play-in tournament, so or the play-in round. That was much needed, I thought, like you said last night.
I think so, too. And to Dave's point, that it was interesting because they kind of just looked defeated a little bit after those games. But now we're seeing old school Bison. This is what they looked like last year. Again, it's Omaha, so we'll see if that carries into next weekend's games.
You got to take care of Denver, right?
Yep.
You gotta blow Denver out of the building like you did Omaha. Don't give them a chance to be in the game. And then you said, then it's on, because then it's Oral Roberts and it's Kansas City next weekend. Full well, ORU is going to be a hefty challenge. The game in Kansas City, though, is not unwinnable. It's tough, but if you are
struggle against Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City's a good team. Kansas City's got
good.
They got some length. They won in Macomb last night.
The teams coming in next week, they haven't beaten yet this
Correct.
season. So they're all toss-ups, except Oral Roberts.
Right, the last 4 after the game tomorrow, as you look at the standings, the 4 games the Bison have remaining, they have not beaten. They haven't beaten Oral Roberts or Kansas City. They lost to Western, and they lost to St. Thomas. So, honestly, the Bison could still reasonably get to the 2. They're going to need some help. Remember, Oral Roberts goes to Brookings still to play the Jackrabbits.
And that'll be good because that's a tough environment.
That'll be a heck of a game there.
But then they need SDSU to lose.
Right.
So at this point, you kind of hope Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts, I don't think they're going to lose anyway. I don't think Oral Roberts is losing the rest of the way here. They're going to be a perfect 18-0. I think they're not losing a conference game this season. That's just my 2 cents there. But you look at the rest of the way, you could go. The Bison sit 5th right now. You could look at potentially 3rd to 7th. Really could.
The Summit League is so weird. You don't know where anyone's going to end up in the middle of the pack.
No. The Bison women had I thought, a bad loss last night. Losing to Omaha has played better, but that's a team that they had handled when they were up here.
Yep.
Bison they have not shot well on the road.
The longer road trips, something about them just kind of takes the life out of the women's team. I don't know what it is.
But they played poorly in Tulsa. They played poorly in Brookings. They played well in Vermilion. They won that game. I'll give that to them. They won in Kansas City, but Heaven was 4 of 12 last night.
Pila Kuda.
Yeah.
That's the one. She gave him a hard time
She had
up
20.
here, though.
She had 28 the first time they played.
Okay, so that makes a little more sense. 5 for 5 from the floor.
Yep.
She did the same thing up here, right?
Yeah, she didn't. She was 14 of 14 the first time they played.
That's crazy.
They defended her better, but then the supporting characters went off for Omaha, their supporting cast last night, and got the win. So,
yeah.
The thing is, Oral Roberts lost, so NDSU's still tied for 2nd in the Summit League on the women's side right now. But the crazy part is, if the Jacks win tomorrow, they win the league already. With 2 weeks to go, South Dakota State will have everything clinched on the women's side. So, but again, if you're NDSU, you get the 2 or the 3, you stay away from South Dakota State, and then you get one game on a Tuesday in Sioux Falls, and then it's up for grabs after that. Granted, it's going to be a heck of an environment if they somehow make it to that, because those are home games for the Jackrabbits there.
I think they're going to go pretty far. If I had to bet right now, I think the women's team will go on a run down in Sioux Falls. I think if it ends up being NDSU, SDSU, I think that could be a good game. But like you said, it's a home game for South Dakota State.
SDSU
so we'll see.
is just tough.
Yeah.
before we let you go, is there a tradition you had growing up with your family on Super Bowl Sunday? Since your favorite team, much like mine, never played in the game for you growing up. I actually got to see Washington win a couple of Super Bowls. That's
Lucky
how old
you.
I am.
Lucky you.
Did you have anything growing up to say, okay, we're going to do this on Super Bowl Sunday?
We would go to our family friends, the Stevens house, and we would do, the board things we do here at work.
Yeah.
Where it's like the scores. We would do that. Everyone would make food, would bring food.
Yep.
That was really the only thing. Like, I wish the Super Bowl was a bigger event in my family's life growing up than it is now. That's one thing my family will do. Super Bowl, we're gonna have a big party every year. But that's like really it.
Okay.
What I'm looking forward to this year the most, though, is the halftime show.
Rihanna performing.
The Fenty
Okay.
Bowl is what we're calling this Sunday.
Really?
Do you know what that means? Do you know what Fenty is? Take a guess.
No.
Take a guess.
Is it a drink? I don't know.
No, it's her makeup line.
Oh, okay.
We're calling it the Fenty Bowl.
Why?
Okay, I love Rihanna. Wait,
Okay.
why what?
Why are you calling it that, though?
That's what everyone's calling it on
everyone's
social
calling.
media.
Okay, wow.
You got to follow some younger people on social media, clearly. That's
Yes,
your,
I'm
your
lamenting
goal.
about old Super Bowl logos. You know where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
with
no,
things,
we're talking
so.
about the Fenty Bowl now.
But I heard her say she hasn't performed on stage in 7 years.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Why? Why is that? I know
Because
she's been in movies.
She had a baby.
Okay.
She's
I didn't know
focusing on
that.
her makeup. Oh, come
Okay.
on. Where have you been?
I didn't know she had a baby. No, I the last I saw her was in Ocean's 8, and she was good in that. I enjoyed her in that.
She is the best. She is my favorite celebrity, hands down.
So you think she's good? This is gonna kill it. She's gonna be really good.
So I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh.
This is my thing. She hasn't performed in 6 years,
Yeah.
7 years. Has not came out with new music in 6-7 years, besides that song for Black Panther, which I wasn't a fan of.
Oh,
But-
really? I did like that one.
No. Well, of course you did. But I'm hoping she does well, because if she flops, it's going to be like the end of her music career, I feel like. That's my hot take.
Wow.
I know. So I want her to
So
do well.
This is
I
kind of a
think-
bold choice by the NFL to go with.
No, it's
Rihanna,
not,
is
because
it not?
everyone loves her. Everyone loves her.
But she hasn't done anything. You just said it's 7
So
years.
this could be her
Oh, the
huge
comeback, the launch- the
that everyone's
launching
like,
pad?
do you remember Rihanna's Super Bowl? And I'm going to say, yes, that was the best thing I have ever seen.
It's been a little bit since there's been a memorable halftime. Lady Gaga was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
You didn't like Katy Perry's?
Nah.
The Dancing Sharks?
No, that wasn't great.
Beyonce's?
You can get on the mic, Eric. He can talk. He forgets he's got a
You
microphone.
didn't like
He can talk.
Beyonce?
Was that last year? I know
Who
it,
was
it
last
bottomed.
year?
It bottomed out with Maroon 5 a couple years ago. That one was not good. I did not enjoy that one. I'm in Atlanta because that Super Bowl was terrible.
You know what's
anyway.
funny? In college, we took a law
The
class.
Weekend was okay. That
no,
was
I
all
didn't
right.
like The Weekend.
No.
In
Prince
college-
was actually the best one to me.
I don't
Prince.
remember
That
one.
was like 14, 15 years ago. So
I
you
don't
probably
remember
wouldn't. Prince one was awesome.
Well,
that was really
the
good.
Justin Timberlake one, we actually studied in
Oh my
a law
God.
class. We studied it in a law class
Really?
in college, because that's the reason why there's a 6-second delay, apparently, was
Oh,
because of that
yeah.
halftime
Oh
show.
yeah.
So that's probably
The Weekend,
the
honestly,
most
was the
memorable.
worst Super Bowl I've seen in a long time.
Which one?
The Weekend. Yeah, I didn't like that one.
I didn't mind
The
that
Weeknd.
one. That was all right. Maroon 5 was way worse than that, in my opinion.
I don't remember.
I've missed the last couple because the Jackman's bedtime is right at halftime of the Super Bowl.
Push it
so I have
back.
not
Push
seen
it back. This one, you got to push it back for this one, because I need to hear your thoughts on the Fenty Bowl
well,
Super Bowl.
I will. I DVR it, so I'll go back and watch
No.
it.
You seriously go back and watch it?
Yeah, because here's the thing. Last year, I actually turned my phone off when I put Jack down for bed, so I wouldn't miss any of the game. I paused the game, right, on the DVR, put him down, came back upstairs, and then resumed and watched everything from there. Stayed off social media, which was incredibly hard for me.
Yeah, I was
to
gonna say,
do.
wow.
And then I watched a halftime with, because last year it was with Eminem was there,
Mm-hmm.
and Snoop Dogg was there. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that one last year
It was
in
fine.
LA. So
It was fine.
All right.
This year, I think
High
that'll be the most
expectations from you.
high
Okay.
expectations. She's gonna. I will tell you right now. She's gonna either start it with "Please Don't Stop the Music" or "Disturbia."
I know that one. I know the
Do
first
you?
one,
Sing it right now.
but I do know that one.
I'm surprised you know
what
that
about?
one.
Oh, come! I'm not that old. Who's going to win the game? More
Not
importantly,
the Eagles.
Not the Eagles.
No, not the Eagles.
As a NFC East supporter, you cannot legally cheer
Well,
for
apparently some
Philadelphia.
people are saying, Washington fans are saying they hope the Eagles win. I'm like, are you
Why?
guys mentally
Why would
okay?
why would they do that?
I don't know. So the Eagles will not win.
By the way, your guy. Why was your guy at Super Bowl Radio Row? Why was Ron Rivera there? I've never seen any head coaches there. What is he?
He won this salute to service award. Or something
okay.
like that.
And he said that Sam Howell's your guy in 2023.
Well, he said he's the guy going into camp to beat.
Oh,
I'm behind it. To be honest, I'm behind it. I told you this. Develop him now.
But you don't have any other quarterbacks on the roster.
I know. And he said
because Heineke's gone, right?
Yep.
Carson's gone.
They said that last year they went all in for a veteran quarterback and it did not work out, and they're not going to do that again.
Well, yeah.
That's a diss to Carson Wentz. So yeah, I say go in on Sam Howell. But then do you draft someone? What do you do?
I would absolutely. I would do that. I don't know, but I would do something there. They're not in the market for any of those guys that are out there. A-Raj, can't get him. You don't want him when he comes out of his darkness retreat that he's in. You don't want him.
I don't want him.
Okay.
He's not going to leave Green Bay for the millionth time.
He is leaving Green Bay. That everything is out there that he's not going to be I would bet your paycheck on that one.
He has
he's not a Packer
bad
next
this
year.
darkness retreat stuff.
Yeah.
He has a bad aura.
Kelly Clarkson was taking singers at him last night at the NFL Honors.
I saw some highlights of that.
Well,
how'd you think about Kirk Cousins singing? Did you see
that? Not great. Not great.
You should show that on the
I do enjoy that Cousins tries to get out of his shell, but not great. So thanks for coming by. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Logan Campbell should be part of our broadcast team, of course, on Saturday for the Bison men's game against Denver. We're overdue for a break on a couple emails we'll catch up on. Don't forget, we've got our Seinfeld Scholars coming up at 10 o'clock. Looking forward to that. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Wrapping up our first hour. Thanks to Logan for coming by. Quick email I got in going back to our topic all week. Dom, great information reporting on the 3-class system for basketball. Would you be able to take your Class B state tournament participants information one step further? I'd like to know the breakdown of day one winners, the teams that made it to the semifinals. How many of those are wins by teams that will move to Class A? How many of those wins are by teams staying in Class B? I think this will show even more for the need for a 3-class system. I appreciate that email. That will take a little bit. Perhaps we'll have time to get into that, but more often than not, I'd say it's by the teams that are moving up that have won games, at least in our time window over the last 10 years that have won at the State B basketball tournament. We'll have more on that coming up next week, and plenty, guys. Don't worry. We're not abandoning it by any stretch of the imagination. Let's take a break. We come back. Fun segment we got coming up. For the Seinfeld nerd and all of us, myself included, a really neat organic deal that's going on Twitter that begins today. We'll tell you about that when we start hour 2 of Hot Mic right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, here on this Friday morning. WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Just saw this, by the way, come out from the Twin Cities, that apparently there were a heck of a lot more issues on the Timberwolves than what we were led to believe with D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert. According to John Krasinski from The Athletic, the team had issues incorporating Rudy Gobert, figuring out how to play with him, things like that. D'Lo wore those issues on his sleeve. He was very frustrated, often with Rudy, with him not being able to catch some passes, with him missing layups and bunnies near the rim, with his offensive struggles this season for the Timberwolves. That frustration was palpable within the Wolves locker room. I'm sure there's other players who had some frustrations as well, but I think we're able to say, hey, look, Rudy Gobert is a $40 million player. We just got to figure out a way to make this happen. D'Lo tried to make it work, but it was uncomfortable at times. We would come into the locker room, and you could hear him actively bemoaning the situation. I've talked to coaches and players from other teams who heard him getting down on Rudy during games. There was this perception that D'Lo was very frustrated with Gobert and didn't seem as open to working with him or trying to find a happy medium as maybe some of the other players were trying to do to make what has been so far a disappointing trade, try to make it work somehow. Well, it's not Jimmy Butler chemistry issues, but D'Lo's now a Laker. And we'll see how it goes. The Wolves play a rather monster game tonight with the Grizzlies as we are a week out from the All-Star break. And they have some heavy hitters on tap for them. we'll get back into that in just a second. But it is Friday. We're having some fun here. We got my dad's picks coming up before we say goodbye. And our next segment, for those, obviously, you listen to the show, watch the show, and our show open, I have snippets of my all-time favorite TV show in Seinfeld. And my wife constantly jokes with me that if I see the show on, I will say, this is a great episode. And she, without hesitation, goes, this is a great episode? Of course it is. It's a fantastic. It goes without saying, at least for me. But apparently I have found people that find it even more great than I do, and I think I committed almost every episode to memory. West Fargo man Mike Crummy apparently found a bunch of people to determine what is the very best Seinfeld episode on the 25th anniversary of the final episode, which is this year, 1998. Kind of crazy. I remember exactly where I was when the final one aired. 2023 signals 25 years since Seinfeld went off the air. And Mike is good enough to come on. I hope he's not going to rip me for any Twins takes I have. He tends to do that on Twitter. How you doing, my man? Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me, Dom. This is a great thrill to be here, talk about Seinfeld on television.
Right.
And particularly about this bracket, this mega bracket we've got going on with Seinfeld scholars.
So, first off, Eric, we got to take him full here. Behind you, you have the Kramer painting. You've got what other Seinfeld memorabilia you have in your home? This is your home, I'm assuming.
This is my home. I'm downstairs in a nice carpeted area, so I don't echo too much, hopefully. But yeah, I've got Kramer poster I kept for family program, kept the George poster out of view today. I do have a Seinfeld cereal bowl right over here along with Tweety Bird, if you can notice him over there. Yeah. The book Seinfeldia, a great book, which I just read over the holidays. Outstanding. I am going to be taking sips of water today from my Vandalay Industries mug. So,
but
we're in good shape.
I thought I was pretty cool that I had like the Fusilli Jerry here and the puffy shirt. I thought I was okay. You've one up me here on this, man. And here's the best part. You actually have the shows on VHS. Like, so these are when like they actually originally aired?
For the most part, some of them or a fair chunk of them are from syndication because, a lot of them aired before I even knew about the show. It was age 14 when I started watching it and a couple summer reruns. And just come across it and like, wow, this is a great show. I should tape this. And now we've got 15 VHS tapes with the episodes, all with commercials taken out, with assistants from my dad.
That's great.
Roommate in college, other people.
That is fantastic. Well, you got to tell us about this organic bracketed idea that literally put every show in a bracketed format, and then people can actually go on Twitter and vote at Seinfeld Scholar, SCHOLAR. And then you just started today. You actually have your first couple matchups are online now to vote. How did this come about? Tell me about the origins of this.
So the original origin was born out of previous anniversary celebrations. So a 10-year anniversary, hey, everybody, send me your top 10 list. And it was, a small group of people. Same thing for the 15-year anniversary. What bothered me, maybe not bothered, but there was a part of it that was like, is every episode getting its chance doing it this way? Perhaps not. So what if we do a bracket with every single episode included, and that's the way we'll celebrate the next anniversary? Now, we didn't get our act together in time to hit the 20th, so 25th it is. Here we are, ready to go. But yeah, it's every episode in a bracket. I've seen plenty of brackets out there before with 64 episodes, the 64 that person selected. Forget about the other 105 right now. No, we're getting them all.
I love it. I'm looking at it right now of how is this determined then? Who goes where? Was there seating involved? Like, how did that get decided?
Yes. I've got a committee, friends from back home, my brother, friends from college. So we kind of have met gradually over the years, just talking on Messenger, really. There's been no in-person meeting about this, but basically been me giving them homework, them giving me feedback, and then we put it together. As far as the seedings, you asked about that. The episodes are seeded. They aren't necessarily positioned where you'd expect to find those seeds in typical brackets, so there's a little bit of secrecy to it. We didn't want the focus to be on the seeds. We wanted the focus to be on the episode matchups and evaluating them on their own merits.
So you have 2 that are posted today. Are you posting, is it 2 every day, or how is this going to work here going forward?
Yeah, there's actually 4 matchups there today.
Okay.
If you scroll your way all the way through the thread, there are 4 matchups posted today. That'll be the norm for the most part. There are 41 first-round matchups, so there'll be a couple days with 3 in there as we get going in the early stages of it. But the other part of it that's interesting, 24 hours is kind of the typical poll length that most people will put out there. We really wanted to give people some breathing room and say, these 3 matchups, I know exactly who I'm voting for, but this one, I want to chew on it a little bit. Let me go back, rewatch the episodes, take a few days, come back to it. So 5 days for the opening length, and then by the time we get to the end, we'll be looking at full 7-day, 1-week polls.
And this, you want to have it culminate, Mike, right when the actual 25th anniversary of the last show aired.
Correct. And I believe that final poll will probably have it end in the evening of that day, just so that if people haven't heard about what's going on, they'll at least have a chance to jump in on that last day and cast a vote.
And I already saw you have over 2,000 people that follow this account, so I'm hopeful we could boast. Honestly, I'm looking at this. I have no idea how I'd vote. I really don't. These are tough, man. I don't know.
It's nearly impossible. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked at it too, and the thing of it is, you mentioned the followers. I've spent most of my time trying to make people aware that we exist, and haven't even looked at the bracket that much for quite a while. Believe it or not, until last night, I'm kind of looking at these. I'm like, wow, we put that together in the round of 128. We have to knock one of those episodes out right away. But that's what Seinfeld is. It's just nothing but greats. It's nothing but classics.
Well, this is really, I don't know if we can show this on our other computer here. They have it. Mike has it. Did you do this like a graphic, like a breakdown of every episode that you can literally click on and basically it's a synopsis of every episode? Did you do this?
This has been a big part of my homework over the last
fantastic,
8-9 months.
Man. This is great.
Rewatching episodes and putting together, and I'm a writer professionally, so this was a great writing exercise to kind of say, here's how much space I have to recap these episodes, and don't go outside that outline. And There you go. A quick recap for anyone who, it's very common to hear a title of an episode, say like The Doll. Oh yeah, that's the one with George's mom. The doll looks like George's mom. Okay. But what else happened in that episode? You might not remember it immediately.
Yep.
Here's your quick reference. Check it out. Oh, that's the one where they were playing billiards in the tiny room, the place to be. It was wonderful.
Do you have a favorite character?
Not like real passionate about. I think it's easy to one day say it's George, one day to say it's Kramer. I will say this. I'm a bigger fan of Jerry than I think most of the general population is.
Yep.
I think that Jerry served his purpose exactly the way he was supposed to. His line readings were impeccable on a regular basis. Yeah. It was mainly a punchline delivery vessel when you think about how the other characters did it. He did his job great.
Do you find for a younger generation that they are getting an appreciation of this show? I know Friends is took off. It did during the pandemic. There was a whole surge of people that went to Friends, and I'm sitting there Seinfeld's on almost every channel. I mean, syndication wise, it's almost everywhere. Does it have the same appreciation? I love it. I'm too close to it. You're probably way too close to it, but do you get a sense that there are younger people that are flocking to this show still?
I know there are, because I see them tweeting about it, and I try to get their attention. Hey, yeah, that's a nice tweet you had there. By the way, if you want to vote, come and find us. That brings up a good point, though, about younger people and how they find things. I mean, it was serendipitous for us that Netflix picked up Seinfeld when they did, about a year and a half ago. I mean, it couldn't ask for better timing. It was on Hulu streaming before that, and I know some people found it there, but not to the same level that they found it on Netflix. So you've got this whole stream, this whole new generation of fans coming into it that's going to have probably a lot different perspective than you and I do in terms of what their favorite episodes are, which ones they might find problematic or those sorts of things.
Well, I have and I'm sure you do, and I know there's a generation of probably guys our age that love this show because we watched them originally. I remember where I was when some of these episodes aired, and my parents will tell you that I'm in my room, I'm laughing my what off, and they don't know what I'm laughing. They don't get it. Like some just don't get it, which is fine. There are shows out there I'm sure that I don't get, but I can't relate to them. If you don't understand why it's funny, I'm sorry. You've missed the boat.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's fine. If humor is subjective,
correct.
We all know this.
Yep.
And then even within a Seinfeld fan level, you have Seinfeld fans who don't like certain episodes.
That's true.
I'm not one of them. I like all the episodes.
That was my next question. Is there any that you don't like? I won't watch. I won't watch that one. Is there any that you have like that?
I really don't.
Okay.
No, there are some that I certainly have not watched as many times as other ones, but no, I don't have anything like that. The other thing I'll say is, the early seasons tend to get some flack.
Oh, I like the early years, though. I do.
I think there's a certain way, like if you come into the show and all you've heard is all these great things about Seinfeld's the best show of all time, and that's your introduction to it.
Yeah.
I see how it can feel underwhelming out of the gate. But I think for me, having kind of jumped in and caught reruns and then started taping episodes when it was at its absolute peak, to me, going back and watching those early season episodes, it feels very charming and you can almost tell exactly what they were trying to do. They just needed to find that rhythm to really make it happen. And they obviously did eventually.
So again, if you want to go on Twitter the handle is @Seinfeld Scholar. The first 2 rounds of voting will go for 5 days each. Then the next 2 rounds will go 6 days. And then the final 4 will go 7 days, with this wrapped up in mid-May when the 25th anniversary of the final episode is on. Do you have a betting favorite? I don't know, I don't want you to sway stuff, but do you have a couple of favorites you think they could get there?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, some of the ones you'd expect to get there are going to get there. Like it's just kind of the way it goes with these things. The marine biologist is the odds-on favorite to kind of take it to the end, because it has probably the best scene of the entire series. Like forget about the rest of the episode, which is still very good, but maybe not as good as some others, in my opinion. The end of that episode cannot be topped. It's just hard to do it. The contest, of course, for obvious reasons, always gets thrown in that mix. I think that the Soup Nazi is also another heavy favorite, but I feel maybe more vulnerable to perhaps getting taken down than those other two that I mentioned.
Honestly, I think one that will have Festivus will have a ton of response to that one. The strike episode, that's what it's called. That will have, I think, some serious weight to it. Between that and the Serenity Now, those two, and the Merv Griffin. I'm going down this road, Mike. I can't do it. Those 3 right there.
You're heavy on the last.
What I think with a bullet have a chance to probably do some damage, I think.
Yeah, I think that we'll see some opportunities for upsets, but I also think that some of the main challengers could get knocked off themselves before they have that chance.
When this is all said and done, what do you hope for people to get out of this?
Just have fun. Just for especially the people that have been watching it for 30 years or longer, just for them to kind of have an opportunity to kind of relive those memories of, when they watched that episode, or what they liked about this part, or maybe what they forgot about it, just kind of rediscovering some of those jokes that might have slipped their mind in favor of others. So yeah, it's just a labor of love on our end, just hoping we can get as many people to vote for as possible and enjoy themselves. Healthy, productive debate, hopefully nothing mean, hopefully no blocking, but we'll see what happens.
Thanks so much for doing this. Let's have you back on when we get near the end of this, okay? Because I'd love to see how this all turns out. We're going to follow it. I'll make sure we get some attention on this from time to time, but let's have you back on in May when this thing is all over, okay?
Sounds like a great plan, Dom.
Awesome. Thanks,
Appreciate
Mike, for
having
doing
me.
this, man. This was awesome. Mike Crummy, Seinfeld Scholars at Seinfeld Scholar, that you can go and vote for your favorite Seinfeld episode as it is underway now, and we'll go all the way to the middle of May for the 25th anniversary of my favorite show, and I'm sure many others. And for others that haven't got into it, I encourage you, just give it a try. Like you said, it might not be for everybody. It is very subjective, but it is hard not to laugh. I will just say that. We'll take a break. Hot Mike back after this here on this Friday morning on WDAY Extra, InForum.com. We're back right after this. Here's just a sampling of the bracket that the Seinfeld Scholars have. This is the Kramer bracket. Summer of George is there. That's a one with a bullet. You can vote on that. We'll link that on our Twitter page at Hot Mike WDAY after our show wraps up here on this Friday. Excited about the weekend. Obviously, Super Bowl weekend. UND hockey on the road. They're at Denver for a big 2-game series there as we're coming down the stretch run there with 4 weeks to go in the regular season for UND. They got what they needed 2 weeks ago with a sweep at Miami. They were off last weekend, and now back on the ice beginning tonight as they'll take on Denver. That was really interesting to read that story out of the Star Tribune on the Wolves and the D'Lo Rudy Gobert flare-up, which, I mean, it definitely has been frustrating. Obviously, we've talked about it from time to time through the first few months of the season, but they've invested in this. They have to make it work with Gobert. D'Lo, I think the writing was on the wall this summer when they were trying to move him and couldn't, that his time was short. There was no... When he got benched at the end of the Memphis series in the postseason last spring, that should have been all the writing on the wall that you needed, that this was probably not going to be a long-term marriage here. And Tim Connolly made his move to get Mike Conley to come onto this team. And we'll see, facing now as one of his old teams in Memphis tonight, are the Wolves. In a loaded West now. The West got certainly more difficult over the last couple days with the trade of Kyrie Irving to Dallas and Kevin Durant to Phoenix, that the task got that much harder now for the Timberwolves to try to make sure they're in the playoffs. And, I mean, they're 2 games over 500 right now. They have a matchup with the second-place team in the West in Memphis tonight as you look at the standings here. The Clippers didn't do a ton. They added some role players. Obviously, we know what the Suns did. The Pelicans held firm. They're just going to hope that Zion gets healthy and they can play like they did prior to that 10-game losing streak. Now they've won 3 in a row, by the way, so they've righted the ship a bit. Golden State made I don't know if minor is the right way to describe it, in moving on from James Wiseman, who was the former number 2 overall pick. I still have high hopes on Kuminga, which was, by the way, the D'Lo trade that the Wolves had with Wiggins. That was the unprotected pick that went to Golden State that resulted in Jonathan Kuminga. And Portland and Utah, I think, are in full-on tank mode. I don't think they're in the mix. The Lakers are off this graphic, and the Lakers are another one that made some moves. We'll see if they can play their way into the top 10 here. Remember, the 7, 8, 9, 10 will play in the play-in tournament at the end of the season. Meanwhile, this is the standings in the East, which, with the trades that the Nets made, I don't know how Brooklyn stays at 5 here. That Boston, Milwaukee made a couple of strong moves. Philadelphia still at 3. The Cavs held firm. I'd watch what the Knicks did. The Knicks made a couple of interesting moves, too, that maybe the Knicks might be onto something there, too. So it'll be fun to watch. The Wild cratered out again. How about this? Out of the All-Star break, it's been lost to Arizona on Monday, lost to Dallas on Wednesday, crushed by Vegas last night. Got to do something here because you're running out of time and teams are going to pass you by with how tightly things are in both the NBA and the NHL standings. You cannot afford to have games where you don't get any points. And suddenly the Wild are picked a bad time to lose 3 games in a row and not get any points out of them. In the process, not score any goals. 1 goal against Dallas, 1 goal last night against Vegas. And the schedule for them, man, they're in the midst now of a 7-game homestand that started last night. They have the Devils coming up tomorrow night. New Jersey's good. They get Florida in there. I think the Avalanche are coming in. I mean, this is not a time when you want to not be playing your best puck. So we'll follow that, but just one note here as we get ready to turn the calendar away from football and dive, headfirst into basketball and hockey and wrestling. We'll certainly with this show over the next few weeks, we'll be knee-deep in that with tournaments here and get you ready for that as we always do. Excited to see what's to come here. State wrestling is next weekend at the Fargo Dome. Then it's boys hockey up at the Ralph, and then we're on to the basketball tournaments with the girls Class B, the Super A, and then the boys B. And as I mentioned yesterday, that'll be the final iteration of that schedule with the 3 classes coming in. And I know reaction still is pretty fierce, depending on where you're at. I've still got a couple emails here saying that I can't believe this is what's happened. It's going to be the ruination of Class B. And one would argue, and I know our colleague Mike McFeely wrote a column about it this morning, that Class B has been declining for a long, long time. Now they've done something about it. And we'll see. Will it be worse? Will it just shift the domination to another class? Maybe, but I think it's worth a try. And certainly from what we've seen with the regularity of some schools making it, it's okay to at least change it up and let's see where we go from here. May not work, but the current way we're trotting out, while some may say is great and nostalgia is fantastic, it's okay to change. Not easy. Some may say, well, you're an outsider. How would you know? I've covered it long enough. I've lived and breathed it. If anybody loves the Class B more than me on the media side, I'd find a hard person to find there. I haven't covered as much as some guys that work in Mayville or in Langdon or Devil's Lake or wherever the state. And I appreciate those guys when I had a chance to see them every year when we've gone to the State B. That I think I paid it its fair reverence when we were on the air. And lo and behold, we had some great games. I think we still will here in 2023 when it goes to Bismarck. But to see what it's going to become, I think let's give it a chance before we crap all over it. I think some despised seeing other format changes in other sports. I think it's worked out okay. As a purist in baseball, I'm sure I'm the one that's like, wild card. Who would want that? Well, it's benefited at least my team I know and many others. That it's change is difficult, but it can be okay on the other end. We'll see. We're going to get a firsthand glimpse of it coming up next year. Let's take a break. We come back. As we always do on Fridays, we end the show with my dad before he's set for a big trip himself. Super Bowl picks are coming up. We come back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com.
If that was me and you, if you'd have went with a Boston, you'd have been living in the garage. I had a Yankee hat on, of course, which I usually almost always do, but she says to me, if I were you, I'd take that hat off. And I looked at they had to look at it to begin with. I ain't taking my hat off. I know where I am. Yeah, right.
You believe anything that guy says? Because I don't.
He said he was going to marry J-Lo, too, remember? Come on. I finally told your mom. I said, there's no sense let's just put TVs in the room because I'm only going to wake them up anyway. So
that's how I got a television? All righty then. We are ready for our final segment of the week. That last shot, by the way, of those photos of my dad is one from 3 years ago. That one right there from Daytona, where you are on your way again here, buddy boy, in just a couple of days.
Yeah, can't wait. The only bummer is I'm going for when the game's on, but oh well. Lesson learned.
You're excited?
That's really the only chance we had because we had to wait till Thursday.
Yep.
For the next flight, so I said I ain't gonna wait that long. Let's go.
Yep.
Of course, we didn't even the Super Bowl till after, so. Isn't that the heck?
So you're gonna be. So what time does your flight leave? This is Eastern time. What time do you take off?
6 o'clock. And the game is at what? 6:30.
6:30. The game starts Eastern time. Yep. So that's
we land in Florida at 9:15. It says so. My buddy for the TV, so we got a shot of seeing the end. Anyway.
Well, the game goes long anyway nowadays. So I mean.
We have a 45-minute halftime.
Yeah, right. So I mean, let's say it's 5. I'm just doing the time here. It's 5:30 Central, 9 o'clock. You'll get the end of it. You'll get to see the end.
Should.
Yeah.
We should, yeah.
Which will be, theoretically, it should be a good finish. So.
Well, we'll see, right?
You got 2 even teams. I mean, it should be.
It should be. It's either going to be a 50-50 game or 10-3,
I don't know. The under-over is 50.
Yeah, but Phil.
I don't know. Eagles defense is good, man. I'm just telling you, they're pretty good.
Come on. Look at their schedule. Go back and look at their schedule. It's one of the weakest in the NFL.
Wow. Tough.
They are good, but I don't think they're going to beat this team.
All right. Before we do our Super Bowl breakdown, last I checked, when I still lived there, you were a big Seinfeld fan. Will you participate in the bracket challenge that we just had on the show?
No, because I'll look at it and laugh, but that's about it. And by the way, NASCAR went with this race Sunday. They went crazy with this promotion of the podium finish.
Yeah, we're watching the highlights of it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they brought it up there, and just as they all got up there, boom, they switched to Seinfeld, just like that. You got to be kidding me.
So wait a minute. So the local Fox back home they didn't show the actual presentation.
Nope, they're all standing up to get up and get their medals, and boom, they went right to Seinfeld.
Oh no!
You got to be kidding! I couldn't believe they did that.
What did you make of? What did you make of the second clash at the Coliseum?
I'm assuming they went back because that's not racing. I mean, all they did was cream each other.
Okay, so I got to read something that's on the NASCAR Twitter account today between Kyle Busch and your buddy Joey Logano. Kyle Busch says, it's really unfortunate to be raced by guys who are so two-faced. We were in the TV booth earlier in the night together, and we were all done with it. He's like, hey, man, good luck tonight. I'm like, okay, great, thanks. Yeah, whatever. And then and then lo and behold.
I mean, he wasn't going anywhere. He just did it on purpose. Kyle ended up finishing second, I do believe. But
so it didn't even matter that he spun him out or is trying to wreck him?
He got third. Well, he just come back through the field. That's all.
God.
I mean, he made his job twice as hard. But
this is already starting. We haven't even actually started the season yet. We're already doing this?
I'll guarantee you there's 20 guys that want to just punch the Galgano right in the face every chance they get. But
why? So wait a minute. If you walk, I'm going to advise you right now on television not to walk through pit row when you go there and punch the man in the face. All right, I'm just telling you that. Do not do that.
I'd like to wear a shirt that said I'd like to punch him in the face, but I'm sure they sell him.
Eric's telling me they were both in the top 10 when he spun him out.
I thought they were back farther than that.
So apparently they were up near the. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Logano wasn't even near the front at the end. I don't know what he finished, but I mean he won it last year. But
So you're already got a hard edge here. They had that happen, then they got out of the race before it was over.
Well, I can't believe they did that. I said, why would you promoted it for 2 months about how, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
and then they boom,
right.
cut it right off.
So,
unbelievable.
So what?
Whose call is that? Fox or our local?
The local Fox did that. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So you can call them if you want.
Well, I sent that scathing letter to the wrong person.
So, what's your schedule when you get there? How many days? When are you going to the track? What's the plan?
Probably Thursday. I imagine that's the first race. The duels. And I don't know if we'll go to the truck race or not, but we'll see.
Okay, so I'm looking at the schedule here. So those races are on Thursday night. Remember, they used to be during the day. I'm going to get old here. But now it's on TV.
The night race is awesome with them cars on the track at night. It's pretty cool.
So the first race at 6 o'clock Central and then 7:45, the Blue-Green Vacations Duels. Introductions and all that stuff. That's Fox Sports 1 has that. The truck race, you're saying that's Friday night at Daytona.
Right.
You're not sure if you're going to that?
Yeah, we went to the other one last year, so this year we'll probably go to the truck race.
Okay, so you're meaning the Infinity Series? Because that's Saturday.
Yeah, that's Saturday.
That's Saturday afternoon, and then the big race, obviously, is Sunday, 2:30 start. What do we got weather-wise? Because remember when you went a few years ago, you got rained out, you had to stay the extra day. So what do we got for weather?
First time they ever got rained out.
Yeah.
That was because they had my buddy with it. We call him Bummer, and that's why it's a bummer. But it's supposed to be in the 70s for Sunday.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Are you going
to
be able to do this with us next week from Daytona? Can we do that? Can you talk to your people?
We'll give it a try. I have to use the phone. We'll see how it works.
We'll make it work. I got to test the old memory banks. The first Super Bowl that you watched on TV, do you remember which one it was? Which one the first memory when I ask you that, what one comes to mind?
The Jets. But I do remember
III.
I do remember Hank Stram and Vince Lombardi's game very well.
Okay, that's the first
the Jets one I really remember because they were all going nuts because that wasn't supposed to happen,
Super Bowl
I'm
III.
sure
baby.
my dad and my uncles all lost a lot of money, I'll tell you that. Because they Oh yeah, they were. I can remember before the game it was my dad and my two uncles, my mom's brothers, sitting there just arguing. There's no way this team can lose. There's no way. We got to put all our money. And I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
I was young,
It was 1969. It was January of 69 there, buddy boy.
I was 14, so I can remember them arguing, yelling about it. We're having spaghetti and meatballs, and they're going crazy. But
Baltimore was a 19.5 point favorite to beat the Jets.
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
That's wild.
They didn't want to bet it because of all them points, but they said, well, they're gonna cream them. It should be a 30-point game. So there you go.
JETS, baby, 16-7. Take the Jets and the points. That's the lesson out of that. The Steelers.
He still looks good.
I did see Joe Willie Namath last night. He looked great. Big night for the Jets last night.
How about your boy Cousins? He's a better singer than a quarterback. He might as well go start singing.
Wow. There you go. The Steelers' first Super Bowl IX. They beat the Vikings January of 1975. Was that your first bet? Was that the one that you won on, or was it later than that?
No, they played the Cowboys on the first one.
Cowboys. Okay, so it was the following year. 76.
78.
Oh, 78. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
That was the first year I got hired at the plant.
Okay, it was January of 79. That's when the Steelers beat the Cowboys. That was it. January of 79.
That's the one I had to miss because I just got hired and I couldn't there's no way I could get off.
I was 2 months away there, buddy boy, so I was coming. So there you go.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well,
and I went down and bought that $900 VCR. So I'd never miss another one.
Oh man. And here we are, and here we are now. We dovetail it 43 some odd years later. You're missing this one because you're getting to Daytona. Yeah. So what do you got for right now? The Eagles are a 1.5 favorite over Kansas City for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I can't believe that one either. I'm going Kansas City all the way.
Kansas City all the way with your guy Mahomes, huh?
Yep.
The
only prop bet I'm going to make, I'm going to go with the over too, because I just think they're going to just blow it
It's
out.
actually been moved up to 51. You're saying over though?
Yeah, that's a lot of money must be going on the under. Probably,
I would imagine so. Yep. What's the prop bet?
I know that's a lot of points, but I don't believe.
Yeah, that's like 20. That's like 27-24. They're saying. You're saying more than that, huh?
Yeah.
All right. What's your prop bet for the weekend then? What do you got?
I'm gonna bet Mahomes to go over 250 passing yards, and the other one too.
Jalen Hurts as well. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Both of them over 250.
Okay.
I'm gonna get Kelsey a touchdown and Jalen a touchdown.
A rushing touchdown or just any kind of touchdown?
Well, Kelsey's will be. They'll both be a passing
Okay.
touchdown. It doesn't matter. Touchdown. However they scored it, it counts.
How about I'll throw you another one. The pride of South Dakota State, Dallas Goedert's going to get a touchdown as well. I talked to his mom and stepdad the other day there because they're going. They got 25 people there. I say he's going to get a touchdown.
Well, the only thing I'm going to go. I'll probably put money on yards that he gets.
Okay.
I think he'll get at least 50 yards anyway.
Would you ever want to be in Vegas for this?
Oh yeah, I'd like to do it one time anyway.
Okay.
But I think it would be if you could afford it, because the rooms, I'm sure.
Well, next year the Super Bowl's in Vegas, so you want to do that?
Yeah.
Let's do it right now. You and I will do it. The Jets are going to be there with Aaron Rodgers. Let's go. I'm set.
Ready. Go ahead. Go for it.
Well, A-Rod is going to be with the Jets, right? That's what everybody keeps telling me. You keep telling me that, so.
What's your boy Eric say?
He's screaming.
He's little. He's a guy. He's a weird. Yes. He's in his 4-day.
He's in his darkness. Yes. Yeah. I know.
Come on. He does that. I mean, he's got the media wrapped right around his
There's
finger.
no doubt about it.
Yeah, he does. He knows what he's doing.
I will leave this with, I hope you have a safe trip. I will text you before you leave, and I will try not to spoil anything when you land in Florida on Sunday night, all right?
I'm sure we won't get any service, so I'm sure when I land, my phone will blow right up with your sister. Your sister's watching all of our pools, so I got a mess of pools going.
All right, have a safe trip.
If I don't get any, that's not good news.
I love you. Have a safe trip. I can't wait to talk to you from Florida next week, okay?
All right, man. I love you, too. Have a good one.
There goes my pops on his way to Daytona for the 500 in the air for the game on Sunday. He's taking the Chiefs and hammering the over, he says, for the game on Sunday. We'll take our last break and wrap up the show. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps right after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com.
Just makes me remember how much I miss playing next to that dude. I mean, it was so fun. All those little shenanigans that he would do, I can't imagine he wasn't pulling some of those down in Mobile. But I always got a little laugh out of it.
It's on record now.
We've got 2 people that watch the show now every day. We know that. So
yes.
we're trending up.
Every Tuesday. They avoid it like a plague at 9:30 on Mondays.
And then we matched up with Devil's Lake first round, and we lost to them. And we never made it. So that's the only grievance I got against Grant Nelson.
This part of our fun week here that we do each and every week on Hot Mike. Thanks to all of our guests. Again, appreciate all the emails and tweets we got this week for a variety of stories, mainly, of course, on 3 classes. We appreciate that, and we'll dive headfirst back into that on Monday. Of course, we'll have our recap of the Super Bowl and everything else going on this weekend. That's coming up on Monday's show. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Friday. Great sports night. We mentioned the Wolves in action tonight against Memphis. Big game there. 7 o'clock tip on Bally Sports North tonight between the Wolves and the Grizzlies. Remember, we've got Bison Wrestling tonight. The University of Oklahoma, OU, is here to take on NDSU. 7 o'clock, WDAY Extra for that one between the Sooners and the Bison. Jack Maughan and myself on the call of that one from the Shack. And we mentioned UND's hockey team back on the ice tonight. Fighting Hawks opening up on the road against Denver after the bye week. 8:30 tonight on the CBS Sports Network for that one. Thanks to our guest today, to Logan Campbell, Mike Crummy, of course, to my dad. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. And we'll see you back here on Monday on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Serenity now!